Ein Heldenleben begins with the hero's theme. I guess one of the most interesting things about the theme is that it's such a wide span.
And it just flies. You don't even have to think about it, really. It just sort of flies.
In the Strauss Ein Heldenleben, the double basses do contribute a lot more melodically than usual. It's a piece that we all feel we can really sink our teeth into.
I think Strauss is really the height of rhythmic complexity.
Well, Heldenleben's complex, and there are some extremes of character. In one mode were the critics.
It's always nice to kind of get one's frustrations out.
They're picking and they're nasty, and he uses all these adjectives in describing the music.
We're trying to really kind of snarl and snipe and kvetch.
It's a very loud, obnoxious,
very nasty attacks.
You gotta sound very brazen. So, I wouldn't say barnyard noises or anything, but it's fun. It's fun to kind of snarl away because we spend a lot of our time trying to be so polished, trying elegant, 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 elegant. And it's a chance to let your hair down.
These adversaries keep returning. They don't disappear, they're there for his life. I mean, that is part of life. There are people who aren't going to like you, and there are critics who aren't going to be receptive to your music, which of course is the case for every creative person. The next section in the piece is about his companion, his wife.
Although there are a couple of small solos interspersed, really the main, the big kahuna is in the middle.
Strauss did flip-flop about whether this was an autobiographical piece, but he never backed away, I don't think, from the idea that the violin is supposed to represent his wife.
He himself described Paulina as capricious, tempestuous, coquettish, unpredictable, temperamental, all these things. And so I really am, more than anything, trying to convey the complexity of this marriage between Richard and Paulina. And I can be, I don't want to say sloppy, but I can be a little bit more kind of down and dirty and gritty with the music in those places where Paulina is yelling at her husband, Richard, take the garbage out. Apparently, even though she was a royal pain to him, nagging wife, he adored her. And so you'll hear those moments in the violin cadenza where suddenly her mood will change and then she'll just descend into a fury and yell at him. And then suddenly everything stops. And then he'll say, but Paulina, you still love me, right, Poopsie? And then they kind of go back and forth, and that's the violin cadenza, up and down. Many, many mood changes.
The next section is the battle. What you hear 3 trumpets off stage.
The trumpet, living up to its reputation as a signaling instrument in battle, is used a lot in the big battle scene, signaling, oh, something's coming.
When the battle actually starts, it has this rhythm of the snare drum. Dum, da-dum, da-da-da-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-da-da-da-da.
I always chuckled then because, of course, when I was a kid, I had to listen to these on LPs, and it was always at that point where you had to flip the record. It's kind of fun. I guess kids now have no idea what you're talking about when you say, oh, this is when you flip the record.
The battle scene in Heldenleben really is percussion-driven.
It's quite loud, actually. Some of the subtlety is gone, but that's kind of the nature of a battle scene anyway. It's kind of orchestrated chaos. Strauss does that with heavy drums, snare drum, field drum, bass drum, cymbals. This is one of about 4 bags I have of the different mallets and sticks that we use to play.
And then the melody comes in, which is very aggressive, but in fact is the same melody that the flute played at the description of this hero's adversaries, except in longer notes.
We play fast and high and loud, the way trumpet players like to do.
Very exciting, and my heart was racing, and it was thrilling.
And then we have, in a sense, a section of victory, and then this very poetic sense where he talks about what his contribution to mankind should be, can be. It's a very philosophical and very beautiful section. Interestingly, he quotes all of his previous tone poems. He quotes one of his operas, and he quotes 2 of his songs.
It's a fleeting moment where the bass clarinet is heard quoting Don Quixote, depicting the character of Sancho Panza. And the bass clarinet is upstaged by the oboe, who at the very same time is playing the beautiful love theme from Don Juan,
which is extremely lyrical and warm and round.
So in a sense, what he's saying is, this is what I have accomplished in my life, and I'm very happy for what I've done.
For me, the most satisfying part of playing the Heldenleben is after all of this craziness. Finally, he kind of wraps it up, and his life is kind of coming to an end, and he's looking back and he's reflecting, and you get this incredible solo with the violin and the French horn.
If Strauss is supposed to be represented by the horn and the violin is supposed to be his wife, it's such lush, beautiful writing, and it's very much a slow, romantic, almost dialogue between the two, because when I have something important, either the violin at that point is resting or playing something less consequential.
It's kind of like we're in separate universes, and yet we somehow connect.
As I sit on long notes or rest, then David takes a turn.
We kind of just do our own thing.
And the whole thing ends very harmoniously as they sort of drift off into the sunset, I think. You meet those pieces early in life, and you spend your whole life working on them and perfecting them, and you never take a work by Strauss for granted.
It's just a highlight of my career each time I get to do it.
How lucky we are to have this as part of our world.